What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. Announcing for the first time our official name, Moving the Needle Forward with Jared and Brett. Brett, how do you feel about that name?
I like it. I think since our first podcast, it's been a while, obviously, but since our first podcast, we really kind of thought, looking back at that moving the needle is definitely something that kind of attracted to us and something that, we kind of, in a sense, essentially both strive for, moving that needle forward. So that, that's a perfect name for our podcast. So let's roll with that.
Yeah, it's a good analogy in life. It's important every single day. What are you doing to move one step forward in any goal that you set? So that's something that we've instilled in ourselves, and we've learned through, sports, work, families, relationships. It's a perfect representation of what we are and what we're about. So we're all about growth here, baby.
There we go.
But as of course, every single time that we do start the podcast, our tradition will be talking about wins and learns from the week. Brett, what was your win and learn for this past week?
Yeah, so I got some, I guess, good news. So I've been on my health grind recently and my fitness grind, just really focusing on, getting back into shape. I was never out of shape, but definitely getting back into a better shape. And, for a while there, I put in a few LBs. And so for the first time since I believe I got back from Germany, I'm now the lightest I've ever been. I weighed myself last week down to 201. So typically for me, I like to hover anywhere from like 195 to 200. And then for a while there, I was hovering right around, 210 to 215, depending on the week. So, I put on a few pounds. But, just finally over the last few weeks, having that, that hard work and just determination of just continuing to go and something that, especially staying strict with my diet too, as well has been a big thing. Been able to lose some of those weight. And my goal is to get back down to 195. And then from there, we kind of go see what's next. But, and then my learn, obviously, kind of still goes sticking with the same as my win. It's just to really focus on your nutrition and also rewarding yourself at the same time, right? Something that I was kind of thinking about too over the last day or so when I was tracking my weight and that kind of stuff, and diet specifically is making sure that obviously you're staying strict and you're really following your plan, but also making sure that you still reward yourself. For me, I've been out drinking. I haven't really drank in a while, but it's having those snacks, going out to eat, that kind of stuff. Like, it's still very important to be able to do that stuff. Find that balance between, your fitness goals as well as that pleasure still in a sense is something that I've, definitely had to learn and had to stay stricter on, because that's been always my biggest fallback is I have too much of that rewarding myself and not enough of that staying strict. So it's definitely been a big learn for me. And I'm pretty proud of myself of where I've gone so far.
Very nice. Excellent.
How about you?
Well, wins and learns. Well, the win I would start with, I would say my win has been the adjustment that I've made in my head to, how do I say this? Really just not closing doors off. And what do I mean by that? In every single relationship that we have, whether it's business, personal, what have you, it's very easy to shut yourself off to other opportunities, other things. Meaning, like a business, right? Or, like, oh, hey, I'm not going to be looking into this opportunity because I'm doing something else at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's similar to like what we're doing now, right? Like we're working on building our personal brand, but also at the same time, we also have our own jobs too. So we've been able to open up the door for ourselves, not only to build ourselves up in the corporate setting, working as a team, contributing to others as a team, and helping what we've learned along the way and passing that along to everybody. But we're also, because we haven't just focused on one thing, been able to start with, opening dialogues up like what we're doing here on this podcast. So that's been a win for me, is really just kind of conceptualizing that and really thinking like, okay, not just one thing is your identity. You can have multiple things that you use as kind of a motivational and identity for yourself. So that was a win for me, is just having that sense of recognition for that. A learn for me, a learn has, I met this lady. I did an installation in Montana, and she had told me that her biggest regret was stopping her exercise routine, saying that excuse of my life is too busy, I don't have the time, and focusing more time on her work and not her own health. Because fast forwarding now, she's older, and she doesn't have the movement ability that she used to, and that she told me that was her biggest regret. And the one thing that she told me was never stop pursuing your goals and dreams for what you want. She used to run marathons, and she stopped. And she was, very excited for me to share to her that we were doing a marathon in January, and she told me to let her know my results and how I did. But it was just a very, very real moment for me of just like, in the moment when you're doing a training, wow, this is really hard. This sucks. But we're embracing the suck. We're embracing the challenges that we face in the workout, which is also a representation of life. We're being faced with all these external factors, family, work drama, life things, that just events that come up. And the biggest thing is just to really focus in and be grateful and thankful for the opportunities that we have. So that was really great. It was an amazing conversation with the lady, and we installed a unit for her, a Vasper unit, and hopefully that's something that will help her in her track back to being able to run and move again. So
yeah,
very, very amazing learning lesson for me.
To her point, I feel like that's a lot of people's fears. Every day when they wake up, it's just having that regret when you're sitting there, 20, 30, 40 years down the road, or potentially when you're about to go. I think, like, looking back at your life and saying, I wish I would have done that. I think that's a big thing that people are scared of. I'll be honest, I'm scared of that. I don't want to sit here and think about what I wish I could have done, instead of rather just going out there and just doing it. But to your point, that perception of time is a big thing. People, we think we got a lot of time. We don't. Life's short. Life.
That's the one thing we can never get back.
Exactly.
We can never get that back.
Think about, you look back when we graduated college or when we left college. That was, 4 or 5 years ago now?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That to me is like just right there in itself tells you how fast time flies by. I go to work, you put your head down, you go to work, hard for that entire week. You look up and wow, another week's gone. We're already into September now of 2022. 123 is crazy. Like how fast time goes, how fast time flies by. So like that perception of time is to make every moment of it, set yourself your goals and try to push yourself. Make that time for the things that you really truly want to do. It's going to be my point to this whole topic, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you'll be amazed how quickly it goes.
Yeah, that's the one commodity, the one thing that we are granted in this life that we will never, ever be able to replace is the time. And then 2 things on that. We got one where when I proposed to Maddie, obviously there's at some point where we want kids. And I'm thinking to myself, what example am I going to set for our future children?
Yeah.
It's a huge one. You know, I want my kids to know the importance of work ethic, working as a team, and the importance of communication amongst peers and family and friends. So peers, I guess, really. And I also want to be able to share with them that everything that I said that I was going to do in this life, I did.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing for me that I want to be able to prove, one, to myself, but also to them that I can do. Because I know I can. It's just a matter of, you know, continuing to put in the work, continuing to move the needle forward. The second point to that is that every single day, I'd say probably my habits have completely changed since this whole marathon. You know, really focusing in on training and refocusing my goals. You know, people tend to, you know, they go to work, they come home, you know, they go watch Netflix, and then, you know, they call that a night. They call that a day, you know? And my whole goal and kind of my whole idea now is I really want to cut all that out, because that's just wasting my time. You know, I really want to be able to do something meaningful in this life, and the biggest thing that is an inhibitor of that are the distractions that we have, you know, via Netflix, via Hulu, via, you know, TikTok, all these things. I deleted some of these things or have taken it off my home screen to make it less accessible to do, because there is some importance of that for promoting and content creating and whatnot. But it's really important for anybody that's looking to really focus in on their goals is to really delete any sort of unnecessary distractions from their lives, and really prioritize the importance of time, because again, like we were saying, you don't get that back. And I've really noticed a huge change in my overall psyche. Just really taking every single moment of the day and really just seizing it. Because ever since that kind of paradigm shift for me, it's like time is money. Like I need to, if I'm not building, you know, creating notes for our podcast or creating workouts for our marathon or working for Vasper to help make the next sale, then I'm not doing what I need to do right now in this moment in my responsibilities. So, 100% suggest that to anybody that's looking to refocus their mental state to get to the point where they really want to be in this life.
Yeah, I think to your point too as well, like I'm probably somebody who definitely needs to really focus on that, because my days off, like when I'm off, like you need to find that balance. I think, you know what, like I think like you'd be amazed, like, and I've even sat in the phone on my phone or watching Netflix and TV where you're watching a show, one episode plays, next thing you know, you've been sitting there for 2 to 3 hours. And like how fast that goes. That's 2 to 3 hours you could be making, you know, changes or growths or learning and growing. And I think for me, my biggest thing about that is having that balance, right? It's good to enjoy that stuff. It's good to have that stuff, but make sure that you're still focused on the things that are going to help you get better each and every day. And I think that's the big point when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like, you know, find that balance between both, but just make sure it's not like your entire day.
Yeah. I think to emphasize with that too, like everyone's balance is different too.
Yeah.
You know, like for my balance, like, you know, there's very little time that I really feel like I need to put in to just like a Netflix or anything like that. Like the thing that I find where I find my why is just putting in that work, because that gives me gratification.
Yeah.
And it's different for everybody. So there's not one like true equation. And for you, you need that balance to be able to give you that little, you know, escape to give you that chance to rejuvenate and get ready for the next task you give yourself.
I think when it, for me, it's like when it becomes a problem to where now you're not achieving those things that you had set forth for that day, that's when you take a look back. You know, I mean, like you can set aside some time for yourself to relax, and you know, especially for me with like working crazy hours, sometimes I need that time to just like sit down and like get my rest. But
Yeah.
I also know that I can't be doing that for 6, 7, 8 hours a day. Like that can't be my entire day. And so that's where like you gotta find that balance between like if it starts to impact your entire day, then that's when you know, hey, let's readjust. Let's gotta go forward. But finding that balance is the key in everything.
It's like a bell curve.
Yeah.
You know, one way is too much. Another way is too much. You got to find that balance, and that balance for people are very, very different. So whatever we're saying isn't necessarily going to work for whoever's listening, but hopefully it's some sort of direction or guide that can help anybody that's trying to make a difference and a change to do so.
Yep.
But I do have a question for you, Brett.
Yeah.
So in terms of your personal goals, what personal goals have you set for yourself, short term and long term? And it doesn't have to be anything related to fitness, and it doesn't have to be anything related, to personal. It can be an encompassing factor. So, what are some of those, and what is the key mindset for yourself that really helps you with achieving those and making sure that they're checked off that list?
Yeah. So I think for me, and I guess what I've been really focusing on, actually I accomplished for this yesterday, was this one of the big goals that I've been really focusing on. One is my fitness, but two is financially wise. I want to make a lot of, definitely in the next year, from this point on into next year and into 2024. I want to make a lot of big steps towards my financial goals. One, a few of my goals obviously is one, looking to eventually buy a house, wherever that may be. And granted, that timetable is something that is still up in the air, as depending on where we're going to live. We're still trying to figure out what the best area is for us, where we really want to settle down. Obviously, another thing I want to do is I want to buy a car. I want to buy a new car. So that's something that I've really been focusing on a lot. And my biggest thing is obviously looking back at my financial gains and stuff like that, and finding ways that I can cut back on the things that are excess that I don't need, sacrificing the things that, like I said, don't need, and then obviously, but still be able to enjoy myself and have that fun. For me, I love to golf, so I want to cut back a little bit on golf, but I still want to be able to get out there on the range and on the course and play. I suppose have been kind of like my biggest kind of goals or personal goals that I have set for myself when it comes to financial wise. Fitness wise, obviously, my goal is to get down to 195. I continue to stay on a pretty strict diet, but still obviously have that kind of balance between both. Those are probably my biggest goals that I have kind of going forward. For me, my goals kind of come and go. I love the thought of having a goal because it's something that you can achieve and it's something that you can continue to work for. And I think for me, when it comes to those goals, it's finding those goals that are going to push yourself a little bit, right? Finding that balance between, you have your easy goals and things that you can easily check off, but finding those goals that, may or may not be achievable, but are going to push you and make you grow. Specifically with work too as well, I want to continue to grow. I have some work goals over the next year that, I want to work either on a promotion within the next year or so. And from there, whether that's with or without Amazon, I want to eventually become remote. That'd be kind of like my end-all be-all goal, just to have the ability to be able to travel, have a few properties around the country, and Airbnb, live out of them when they're not being used, and that kind of stuff. So those are some of the goals that I have. I know it's kind of like all over the place there, but
what have you done in terms of looking into real estate to kind of educate yourself and kind of get a kind of a feel for what that would entail?
So I've done a little bit of research just based off like the Airbnb kind of market, the Verbo, the kind of the renting of the properties. Obviously, that's something that's pretty big, and it's definitely a big industry to get into. I know there's a lot of capital and potential gains that you can make from that. Obviously, so I've been looking at a few areas just kind of around whether that's out here in Scottsdale, some of the bigger kind of hub areas where a lot of people, go. So that's kind of like, I haven't done a lot of deep diving into it too much, but it's something that I definitely it's on my radar. So that I want to continue to kind of focus on. And then obviously for personalized real estate, it's just looking for something for me and eventually, down the road, whether that's here in Arizona. I texted you about it, but we're going to Boise in December. So go check that out there. We talked about Florida. We talked about, a lot of places just around the country. So, when it comes to real estate, I'm still like out of an open book, but definitely something that I want to continue to, grow my knowledge in at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you're deciding or looking into the California market, I think I know a guy.
Yeah? Oh,
yeah. Well, the reason I say that is because last Friday I passed my real estate exam, and I'm officially a realtor for the state of California. I thought you saw it on LinkedIn.
I don't go on LinkedIn. I need to go more. I'm like, I go on LinkedIn like once every 2 weeks.
So I haven't officially announced what brokerage that I'm working with, but currently working on a great I'm not a partner in it, but a great partnership with a group of guys that have grown up in the Bay Area that have been in real estate for the last couple of years that I'm really, really excited about. So
very nice.
Shout out to them. They know who they are. But yeah, I can't say who yet until it's official, but very, very excited. So if you decide to move back to California to be close to your best old pal, Jared, I'd be happy to help.
Well, what's up with this Wyoming and Montana and Washington travel that you've been doing recently? It's been a lot out there.
I know, man. I know. There's a lot of bridges to cross, that's for sure, because there's a lot of great opportunity out there. California is obviously our home, and we love it very much. And for the next couple of years, I'll definitely still be here. As Maddie and I are getting married next year, so we have some things that we have still here. Business venture, be here for a couple of years to do that. Once I start to build, I'll at some point I would definitely love to move and get into a different market and learn not only on a business side but also just living space. I'd love to learn life in a new area.
Yeah.
Washington is gorgeous. It's the Pacific Northwest is unbeatable in views, experience, people. So I'm very excited to learn that. Maddie and I are planning a trip to be able to go there and check it out. And Montana, I mean, shoot, Montana is a special place in my heart. That's for sure. 100% one of the best like places out there. Had a very special experience over the summertime with Maddie's family. I got to see Montana for the first time. We rented a 46-acre ranch, lived out there, had an ATV we got to mess around on. We were super close to a lake. One of the family members is a real estate agent in that market, which is really, really cool to listen to her. She's an entrepreneurial mind herself, so just listening to her and hearing what she had to say about business and being, someone that's getting into real estate, she had a lot of great advice for me. So a lot of cool markets. Boise's another one I've thought about too.
That's growing. That's growing a lot too as well.
It is. It is growing a lot.
We're excited to get out there and take a look at it. Aaron's sister's actually looking about there too, which is one of the reasons why we decided to go out there. It's going to be our 2 years, so we're just going to go on vacation and kind of look around. It's going to be cold, but I feel like like we talked about, man, time flies by. But the older you get, the kind of the slower you want things to be, and I think that for me is something that I'm looking for. You still want to have that city aspect. You want to have that. Not party, but you want to have like some downtown life. You want to be able to go to a nice dinner and do these things, but you also want to like a little bit slower life. And, that's not for everybody, but at least that's what I kind of want.
Yeah.
You can buy a lot of land out there, and then Idaho and Wyoming and some of these places out there, and build a big house and kind of do what you want on your land, and that's something that definitely intrigues me, and definitely something that I'm looking forward to. I know we'll eventually get there one day. We'll see.
Absolutely.
Who really knows what's going on? Take it day by day. Right?
Yeah, man. One day at a time. That's the best motto to go by. That's for sure. So, kind of getting back on track, because we did definitely kind of get off track with the whole goals thing, but that's what it's all about. What would you say the number one thing is that you would attribute to your desire to grow as an individual?
For me, I think it's just the constant pursuit of trying to get better, right? Like, I think, like, being comfortable is nice, but getting out of your comfort zone, continuing to push yourself each and every day, that's when you're going to truly learn to find, that's where you're going to truly find the most and learn the most about yourself. And I think we kind of talked about this in our first podcast, but finding that uncomfortable zone where you're in, specifically when it comes to working out, it's kind of the same concept when it comes to, life and setting your goals and that desire to grow, right? When you're comfortable, you're not growing. And I kind of relate back to my time in Germany in the sense is, that was a very not uncomfortable situation, but it was a new experience. Like, I was in another country by myself. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have the relationships to build. So I had to kind of create that own life. Same thing as kind of moving out here. This was obviously a lot easier to move, one, because, well, it's the U.S., but two, I've kind of already done it before. But, putting yourself in those uncomfortable positions are just going to make you so much stronger, because one, you're going to learn from it. You're going to figure out, what went right, what went wrong. But you're also just going to grow from it as well. Like, you're going to learn so much more about yourself because you have to rely on yourself to be able to survive and do those things. And I think when it comes to, that growth as an individual, finding that uncomfortable side of things, like, you have the comfortable side, it's like a pitch in the road or a fork in the road, right? You can go right, you can go left. That comfortable side is real nice. You sit in a nice home, sit by a fire, that kind of stuff. But that uncomfortable side, it's the cold outside. Typically, that's where you're going to grow the most, because it's the hard path. It's the harder path, because you're going to have to learn.
Yeah. Where do you think that comes from?
That desire to grow. Yeah, I think it just comes from that, well, one for me, I think comes from that sports background. It's that constant pursuit of just trying to prove people wrong and get better, right? I mean, think about how many times you've played against people or coaches who have said that you're not good enough for that kind of stuff, right? Well, you have two things. You could either sit there and agree with them and be like, yeah, you know what, I'm not good enough. Or you can sit there and be like, yo, screw you, dude. Like, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to step up. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to grow and get better as an individual and as a player and achieve that goal. I think for me, that's where I feel like that comes from. I also think, though, too, like, I see how far I've gotten in the last 2, 3 years, 4 years, and it excites me, right? Like, we've grown so much over these last few years, specifically, coming out of COVID and coming out of college and COVID and into the workforce. You see how far we've come. It's just like, well, why stop now? Let's see how far we can take it. And then when you get to that point to where you feel like you've hit the ceiling, cool, open that next door and see where that next ceiling takes you, or that next step of stairs takes you. I think it's that constant desire to, want to be the best and be better, That's kind of like, for me, is where, like, I've had that desire to grow and, like, consistent, desire, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I guess that's a lot of, what connects us together as well. Obviously other things as well. Just having a connection over the last 4 years, 4 years in college and then so on, 7 to almost 8 years now that we've known each other. And it's really, the desire that we'd have every single day to prove whoever had said that we wouldn't be able to succeed wrong was a huge motivating factor. But not only just to prove them wrong, but also to prove to ourselves that we could actually do it. If you really think about it and break it down as athletes, for us specifically, you're a very small percentage of the population in the United States that actually gets the opportunity to even compete at an NCAA level, specifically for us, Division II. So that was a really cool opportunity and experience, and I would say a lot of the kind of the desire and for me to continue to get better, had a lot to do with, exactly what you were talking about, just that motivation and that fuel people give you when they say you're not going to be able to make it, or you're not going to be able to play at that level. It's, it's fuel to the fire. What are you going to say?
Well, my whole thing, or my question to you would be, is why did you get your real estate license? You're comfortable with that, right? You got a good job. You can pay your rent, right?
Yeah.
What made you decide to get that real
estate
license, right? Like, you wanted to improve yourself, improve your life.
Yeah. I would say the biggest thing, that was, when I played sports, it was always, what can I do to be better the next day, right? Now that I've come into like the real, work for your money, money pays for that, literally everything that you need in this world, all the commodities, all the, the goods and services that you need to stay healthy, to stay alive, everything. Mine was, I was comfortable. Yeah. I was like, oh dude, this is not good, cause the comfort, being too comfortable is, that's dangerous, cause that's your, you're not desiring the chance to grow, or build something, or be out of your comfort zone. So I was kind of, I did some serious evaluation to myself, and, I would say I make good money, but I'm nowhere near where I would like to be, nowhere near where I know my potential could be. I enjoy connecting with people. I enjoy, learning people's stories. And, I was like, God, what is something that I've always enjoyed? I can really change someone's life. And, it's a relationship that I could build for a long time. And I started looking into insurance, the family business, what my dad's done. My dad's been doing that for 35 years. I was like, you know what? Like, it would have been easy for me to go to University of the Pacific because that's where my parents went, but I didn't. It would have been easy to go into insurance, but I didn't. I decided to do real estate. So real estate was that thing to me where, I really wanted to prove to myself that, there's more to this. There's more goals, from the youngest age, I've always loved touring homes, looking at homes, and just dreaming like, God, man, like that one day where I get to have my own home, where I can pimp my garage out, have my ATVs, have my cars in my sweet garage with my nice gym. Like, obviously not my whole life, but probably at the age of 16 and on, man, I've always been dreaming about that, having something like that. And the fact that, I'd be able to do that for myself and be able to help people find that dream for themselves was really, really empowering for me. And you also have the ability to create your own schedule, which I really love, especially with all the other things that we're doing and building and growing towards right now. So that was a huge, shift for me, man. Cause, I'd get home from a long day and I was studying for, 4 hours after work. I'm taking that thing all the way to 9, 10 o'clock sometimes just to get through all of it, man. It took me 5 to almost 6 months to get through all the classes and all the learning to take my license. And once I got to that test day, man, I was nervous as heck. I was like, how in the world did I do this every single other week with college, Yeah. But it was just like, it's a muscle that I haven't used in a long time, just test taking. I got in there, man. I got into the flow state, and I absolutely crushed that thing. And, I've heard, I was hearing stories all the way leading up to it about people being in there till, being in there as long as, all the way till 3 hours of testing. And as someone that can't sit still was freaking out about. And then also some people not passing for like 4 or 5 times. All these stories, you can have negative self-talk all the time. But as soon as I got into that door, man, I was like, nah, dude, like, this is my day. I'm taking this thing. I don't have I cannot waste any more time on this. It is time for me to start. It's time for me to go. I'm just waiting for my paperwork to be able to start. And, onward and upward, baby.
Yeah. So I guess my question to you, like, and this kind of sticks with the same topic. One of the things you just talked about was that work-life balance. So, like, during that time, you're still working at Vasper. You're still working, to try to get your real estate license. Like, what did you do during that time to be able to balance, that pleasure, but also that, that work environment, that working hard, that aspect of, continuing to grow? Is there anything that you did that you were successful or that made it work for you?
I think the thing that made it work the most for me was really like mental prioritization. So one, what do I need to do in a day that's going to get me through the day and get everything knocked out on the list? So I would make lists, things that I needed to do, tasks. I would set goals for myself weekly of the concepts and sections I needed to get through. Those were the biggest things that helped me get through it. But also, dude, just getting out and going for runs or lifting. And I mean, we sound like broken records when we talk about it, but it really is a huge thing. And there's a lot of research that suggests it and shows evidence about how huge fitness and exercise plays in, your mental capacity, your ability to learn, your ability to absolve stress, go through stressful situations. It is a huge stress reliever, and that's one thing that has absolutely saved me when I was going through all the testing and learning. But now, the biggest thing, and this is not a sponsored ad at all, but I would say one of the biggest things that I have, begun using is ClickUp. It sounds like a paid promotion, but ClickUp is basically a software that brings all accounts together and gives you it allows you to prioritize and bring tasks together on one platform. So you can have 2 or 3 emails and calendars and bring them all into one. And then you can create prioritized tasks based on what you need to do and achieve first. So I've used that because I've got like 4 things I'm doing right now, projects. I got real estate. I've got, Vasper. I've got with this podcast. I've been working on, fitness and personal branding stuff as well for myself. So a lot of things are happening right now. And the biggest thing and the most important thing is to stay completely organized to achieve that. Yeah. So it's been really, really helpful for me to start. And it's only been like 2 weeks that I've used it. Yeah. And there is a free account you can use just to try it out. Use
Jared and Brett 2022 as your promo code.
I know, right? But that's been a huge one, dude. Honestly, it's really important to set expectations and goals because if you're going in blind on things, then it's super easy to procrastinate. Push things off, say I'll do it next time. But at the same time, there's also something happening in your brain, right? Every single time you write something off, you don't get that dopamine rush in your brain where it's like. Dopamine is super, super important when it comes to, task achieving because that's what gives you that feel-good sensation of completion. That's why when you instill a habit and you do it, leading up to it and after you have that huge dopamine rush. One, because exercise is a great way of doing it, but also just that sense of achievement is what gets that. So, having those little things and those tasks and checking them off, dude, are super, super huge. And that was a big one for me, especially with the busy life that I currently have right now.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, to your point there, and the reason why I brought that up is because that's something that I know that, like, for me, that I definitely in the past have struggled with. It's just that creating that task, creating that list of finding that balance between pleasure but also work and growth. And, to your point, right, like the days that I write down my stuff that I need to do, I'm definitely a lot more focused. I knock out all the things I need to do, where the days when I don't, it's, hey, I'll do dishes later. I'll do this and that later. And you end up not doing it. And it's 10 o'clock at night. Oh, you know what? I'll just do it tomorrow. So I think, it's really good tools to find something like that can work for you. I tell Aaron that all the time. Hey, you got things to do tomorrow? Cool, make a list. Make it the night before. When we wake up in the morning, you have your task that you need to get done for that day, and you can start checking them off. And it's amazing how simple of a tool like that is. That'll just keep you that organized and keep you that on task. So
yeah, dude.
I mean,
it's 100% a game changer. And just like what you're saying, right? You procrastinate, man. You got it. I mean, it was a great analogy. I don't think you realize you made it, but you procrastinate dirty dishes. You got to wake up and you're confronted with dirty dishes first thing in the morning. All that dirty stuff that you had done the day before, all that crap, you just left it, and you're confronted with it first thing you wake up.
It's a domino effect.
So the best thing to do is get it done. Everything that you had to do that day, do your best to get it done the day you assigned the task, and then create new tasks the evening before the next day so that you know exactly what you need to do.
Yep. Perfect.
Simple as that. I got something back for you here. You being in a little bit more of a larger established company, and you being in a leadership position yourself, what is the number one thing in your job that you see lacking in individuals?
Lacking
in individuals. It could be, a voice, wanting to express their opinions, leadership. What would you say that would be?
It's funny because my job has definitely changed over the last 3 months since I've moved out here to Arizona. I'll kind of, relate this question back to when I was back at the warehouse. And it kind of comes back to our first podcast when we talked about that why. The thing about, when I was working in the warehouses is you have people from all walks of life. And, you get this everywhere when you go and work, but specifically at Amazon with how easy it is to get a position there. You go online, you sign up, and you're pretty much hired, right? As long as you don't have a criminal background and you're past your background check, that kind of stuff, you're going to get hired. You have people who speak English, who don't speak English. You have people who are deaf, who are, all walks of life. It's beauty because you have to work with, everybody. But you have people also who are there for different reasons. You have people who are there because their mom told them to move the job. So they're just here one day a week to get a paycheck. They don't give a shit. They're here to come work 4 hours and go home and call it a day. And you have those people who, this is their life. This is something that they I think about San Diego when I was living there. You have people who are taking buses and trams from Mexico. They're driving 2-3 hours to go to work, to push themselves and grow as a human being. So I guess in that sense, to answer your question, is it's having that why behind why you go into work every day. That reasoning behind it. You have people who are, like I said, are here just for a paycheck. But you have people who are here because they need to, and it's this is their life. Their life depends on that paycheck. I guess to answer your question, it's that why behind what you're doing at work is the reason what's going to continue to push you to grow. That makes sense.
How's the team? How are people's ability to work and collaborate as a team, individually speaking? Has that experience been good? Do you think people can work on that? Is that something that's kind of a lost art? I've heard people in other disciplines of work say that it's very hard to find team-oriented individuals that are willing to give themselves to the team or a much higher, power to help with the company. So I'm just curious about that, what your experiences are with it.
My big thing is, I'm at the position that I'm in. I am no greater than the people who are above me and people who are below me. We at this end of the day are all the same team. We are one big company, Amazon, right? That's the thought process that you have to look at it, right? Granted, people above me make different decisions, make higher level decisions, that kind of stuff. I make high level decisions than people below me, so on and so forth. But that doesn't mean that I'm any more important than anybody else, right? We all have a voice. We all have an impact. We all have a job to do, and all of our jobs correlate with each other. just because I am your manager doesn't mean that because you're below me, I shouldn't listen to you. People below us, people who are, people who work for us in a sense, right? In quotes, work for us, can have those $1 million ideas that can save the company thousands and thousands of dollars, So that's why, like, whenever I go into a conversation with somebody, having that open mind, right? Like, I've worked at Amazon for 2 years. Yes, I've come from different aspects of the network. Just because I've done that doesn't mean that I'm smarter than you, or that I know more than you, or that, like, my opinions are better than you. So I think when you look at, like, that team aspect of it, it's having that open mind. It's having that thought process of, you know what, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter what level you are, like, people are going to have ideas, people are going to have things, and to be able just to listen. But I think listening is the biggest part of, like, teamwork, right? This is, you have to have that time where you can interject and, make those choices and those opinions, right? But you're doing your team and yourself a disservice by not listening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that, like, you look at like, now related back to sports now, but, like, you look at some of these best teams, like, we'll talk about the Golden State Warriors. What's one of the things that makes them a really good team? They have superstars. They can communicate. They can work with each other. You look at the Lakers. Lakers have more superstars than the Warriors. Lakers spend all the money, right? And they don't make the playoffs. They suck. It's that finding that camaraderie. You have to have people who are willing to work with each other, but you also have to have the ability to listen. And I think that's what makes a successful company, that's what makes a successful team compared to those that fail. And I think that's, true in sports and in life and just everything else. Having that I guess that ability to be able to listen.
Mm-hmm. Is this something that you preach to the people that are, I guess you work with, sharing that? Because the biggest thing is, of course, consistency in a leadership role. What have you, is that one, something that you are consistently preaching to people that you are working with? Then two, what are some of the other things that you've done to remain consistent with the message, as well as just getting into work every day and giving it your all?
Yeah. So the sense is that thought of listening is this, yes, I open that, I try to open that every day when I go into work, right? Because the people who are speaking are the ones who are physically doing that stuff, right? So kind of how it works for us is, I'm looking at things at a little bit of a higher level, whereas the people who are below me, in a sense, are doing that day-to-day level. They're working on that day-to-day operation, right? So they're firsthand seeing this. But when I have to go and report to these things on, what those people are seeing, right? Like, they know what's going on. They have the backstory. They know areas of opportunity. They have the pain points, all those kind of things. For me to sit here and look at the numbers and just, make something up, like, that doesn't do anything, right? Listening, understanding what these are, talking to your employees, talking to your coworkers is huge, because they're going to see things that you don't. They're going to see things maybe in a different way that is going to help make that breakthrough. They're going to see things that, that it gets swept under the rug, or that things that you don't necessarily see on a day-to-day basis that are going to help you out and help the business grow. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, 100%. 100%. And then the second one was, what have you been doing? What do you do to remain consistent in that message and holding yourself to that standard?
Yeah, so I think the big thing is this. Definitely when I was back in the field, I was working with a lot of other warehouses. So I got sent around the country, up in some of the LA sites, out in Texas. Even people who have come to our site, I've trained with a lot of people. I've trained them. One, right, obviously, never just because you're training them doesn't mean that they don't doesn't mean that you don't. So having that same concept is when I work with them, right? Obviously, you want to teach them, you want to help them grow. So sitting that same method, right? Having that open ears, having that same mentality, that mindset, that this team environment. When you look at Amazon, you have different shifts, right? You have your days, you have your front half days, you have your front half nights. You have your back half days, you have your back half nights, right? Like, it's one big team at the end of the day, right? Like, there's a lot of times you'll see it's like this competition between my shift's better than yours. That's great. But guess what? At the end of the week, guess what comes out? It's how the entire warehouse did, and not just based off of your shift or what you did. So, the big message that I always tell people is, like, hey, when you're going to work with people, like have that leadership mindset of let's listen, let's work together as a team, let's grow as a team instead of I'm this, I'm that. You know, I think that's been something that like I've definitely tried to preach, not only with the set that I've worked out, but with other people who I've trained in the past, and so that way they can go on and hopefully implement that same kind of concept and that message into their sites as well.
Absolutely. No, that's great, man. That's good. That's good advice for anybody listening, and that's also just good knowledge to have. So, thank you for sharing that. In terms of work as well, the biggest thing that everyone always talks about is like a work-life balance. The one for yourself, which we've always talked about, and what you need to do on a day-to-day to help with you being able to stay in that mental mindset and focus. But what are some of the things that you found successful in balancing your work life and then also your relationship with Erilyn?
Yeah, when I talk about that question, it's definitely something that changes quite often, especially with working with a company like Amazon, and especially being in a field where you work 24/7. So finding that work-life balance is something that definitely, Amazon really strives to push for. For me, I've struggled with that in the past, where like I've always been a yes guy, right? Hey, I need you to come in and work extra. Like I'm there for you, right? But you also got to understand when to say no. You got to understand when to have that balance. Talking with my dad, kind of in a sense, is you gotta have that switch, right? So you're gonna go to work for 10, 12 hours a day, right? But when you get back from work, you gotta have that shut off. You can't be focusing on work, right? You gotta talk and work with the people who you care about and who you are with. If you come home and you're still checking your phone, you're still checking your email, that kind of stuff, are you really off work? So it's like, finding that balance between, when you're working right, you're working hard, you're giving it 110%, you're pushing yourself, you're helping the company, that kind of stuff. But when you clock out and you're headed home, right, you got to find that switch. So that's been something that I've definitely worked on. And kind of the same concept too goes, when it comes to work, and then now adding that implement of working out more. It's just, okay, hey, I know what my schedule is. Making my schedule that I'm going to work with. I'll tell Erilyn, hey, this is my plan for the day. I'm going to wake up, work out before work. I'll be in at work at 6. I'll be back at 4. From 4, I might go for another run real quick, quick 30, 45-minute run. And then from there, you got me for the rest of the day. We'll make dinner, watch some movies, watch some TV, kind of relax. So it's definitely finding that, like I said, that balance, that what's going to work for you, or you can still achieve the thing that you need to, but, having that switch to be able to where you can switch off and still enjoy yourself. And I think, too, as well for me, is that we really take advantage of my days off. Working 4 days a week and 3 days off, definitely that Sunday, like we did, yesterday we did it, or Tuesday. We woke up, took Rizzo out on a walk down by the water, got some coffee, and, she works from home, so it makes it a little bit easier, and she doesn't have to start until later on. But, we're able to go and do those kind of things. So it's, like I said, it's finding that balance. It's finding that switch to where, when you're working hard, but when you're not, you're enjoying yourself and finding that life.
Did you just say that there's water in Arizona?
Yeah, surprisingly, we're in a drought, and we live in a desert. So I don't know how that works.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Well, we were always in a drought, but we have it's like a canal or whatever. I don't know. It's through downtown,
that's cool.
Old Town Sackville, or Old Town Scottsdale. So
nice.
Man-made, whatever.
Yeah, everything's man-made. No, that's really good though. I think it's really important for people to be able to prioritize their relationship. It's something that always involves some sort of work. And it's very important to always continue to water that, in a sense, water that plant, water that relationship, continue to grow, continue to build, doing the things that you both know you enjoy, but then also experiencing new things as well. Together are very important, and being able to prioritize certain points of the day or certain parts of the week where you guys can do that is really, really important, because that's what builds that bond even more and more moving forward. Because that's our support system. We want to make sure that everyone is supporting one another and, feeling like, they're being, their interests and their experiences are being tendered to, really. So very, very good. Absolutely. But I think, we're about an hour, almost just under an hour here. Brett, do you have any other things that you'd like to talk about or discuss before we log off on this one for episode 2?
Just our goals.
So the upcoming week.
What are yours?
Yeah. Well, the first one I would say is post another podcast next week. So every single week we need to do that. Yeah. So, that's on me. It's on both of us. We do better at getting that and creating that content and that wealth of knowledge for everybody. But also really logging in my first full month of running and training. Just continuing to build and grow on the miles that I'm logging right now is really the biggest thing for the next week, is just staying consistent. I'm still kind of working through some of the kinks with the program I've built. At some point, I'll probably publish it. So I'll make that available to anybody that wants to use it. I'll share that with you, Brett, so you can let me know what you think of it as well.
Yeah, Jared did officially sign up for our marathon, so we're doing it in January.
Yeah, officially in January in Phoenix, Arizona. Shouldn't be too hot, but I'm super, super excited about it. That's going to be a great experience. He is coming, yes. He is training for the marathon as well, and we will actually be filming that. So I will have someone with a camera to be able to film that entire day. So
we'll get your brother on one week. We'll get him to come on, and I want to see how he's doing with his marathon training.
That would actually be really, really cool. I would love to have him on. Maybe when you guys are here, we can do that.
For sure.
That'll feed right in. That'll feed right in. Yeah, that'll feed right into our goal that we've set for ourselves. Everyone, you've heard it. Brett and I, moving forward, are going to continue to post every single week. Really continue to create content and information between the two of us for the next 6 weeks until you come. And then from there, we'll start to 4 weeks, and then we'll start to expand and spread out to, people that we know that are in similar spaces that we are, that have found success in whatever they do. So, any final words of encouragement, motivation that you would like to add, Brett, would be best done now.
I can't think of a goal from here right now.
Uh-oh.
Let's see. I've been running probably around 15 miles, so I want to bump to 20 miles a week. My goal. I want to run 20 miles a week.
Nice.
Grow from there,
That's good.
I know it's a fitness goal, but why not? So, Actually, I want to get back. I want to get down to. Nah, never mind. That's a bad goal. I want to starve myself. I don't want to do that. But, no, I think definitely 20 miles would be good for me. And then save a little money. That's it.
Nice. Save a little money here and there. That always helps.
I'll think of a better goal next week.
Yeah. Your goal should be think of a better goal for next week.
There we go. So.
But everyone, thank you so much for listening. Everybody, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry. Everybody, thank you for listening to the Moving the Needle Forward with Jared and Brett. It has been another great podcast. We'll continue to post more every single week, continue to grow, and let's keep moving this train along and move the needle forward.
Peace.
All right, thank you guys.